there are very few women you can count on your fingers. Gina Davis, Charlize Theron, Jennifer Garner, maybe Alia Bhatt in Hindi movies. Like there are very few that I can even remember that have played female spies before. So that in itself is novel.
Tell me you've never felt like you should be somewhere else.
David, the idea of Citadel is unique, especially with the premise that the most powerful countries have these agencies that in theory keep the security of their citizens and preserve democracy, but sometimes they are doing quite the opposite. So this organization like Citadel that is loyal to the people instead of a country with an ideology or a system, I think it's great and I think it's very original. So how did you came up with the idea and you developed the story with this in mind?
Well, the idea for the series really originated with Jennifer Salke, who runs Amazon Studios. She wanted to tell a very global story where there was an English language series and then a series from around the world with the local languages of those countries and territories. She then called Anthony and Joe Russo, who she's known for such a long time, and together they conspired and came up with this notion that a spy agency, a spy story, is so organic, really, to telling a very global story. So it started with them, and now we get the good fortune of playing in that incredible sandbox that they sort of set forth for us. But specifically this notion of an organization that does good for all around the world, it's wish fulfillment, right? I think the grand hope for people around the world. We live in a time of such terror and such fear. And so I think that there is a desire, right, to believe that there are people out there who are good, who are protecting us.
Something interesting in the spy stories like Citadel is that emotions are dangerous for these characters like Nadia because of their job. They need to be cold blood, but as I said in the first question, as you said, they are part of something more human. They are not like robots. So she's not only different in the story, in this story or in the action genre or in the world of spies. So for you, what makes Nadia different from other spies that we have seen in other projects?
Well, first of all, I don't think we've seen too many female spies in this genre. They're mostly men and they're mostly white men. There are very few women you can count on your fingers. Gina Davis, Charlize Theron, Jennifer Garner, maybe Alia Bhatt in Hindi movies. Like there are very few that I can even remember that have played female spies before. So that in itself is novel. Second of all, that, a big onus of Citadel, the show, is on Nadia's shoulders as well. She's doing the physicality. She's figuring it out. And I think that is very novel to be able to see a female character that is in the forefront of the narrative of the show. And plus it's very character forward. It's not just about the plot or the action. It's about how she feels and what is a choice she makes because of what she feels. It's about how he's feeling and the choices that he makes and what happens with the sum of their decisions. So it's really interesting, fun, complex. And I think at my place in my career, I'm always looking for something that challenges me now. And this really did.
And David, the spy stories present these characters that are usually invincible. They are very smart and they can use any technological device. They're emotional, prepared to confront anything, and they are physically different, And what I love about Citadel is that they look more realistic because of everything that Richard, is saying. So what are the limits for this group of spies, even in these fictional stories? And how did you establish these limits to create characters that are more relatable?
What a great question. I think the greatest thing about Citadel is how human the characters are, right? That we really sort of put, front and center their humanity. And that's both a strength and a superpower at times, and it's also a vulnerability, right? And so, because we get to live with a spy story in 6 parts in sort of long form, usually you get 2 hours, you go to the movies, they're invincible, and the movie's finished. but we really get to go home with these characters. We get to see the depths and dimensions within them. And so we needed to create human characters that an audience could really relate to and see, even just glimmers or glimpses of themselves in.
Yeah, and Richard, I love Mason. He's very interesting because he's constantly conflicted about who he is. He's like in a crisis of conscience, dealing with the past and then his actions and his memory. And this dynamic changes everything for him and the others all the time. So how was it to play a character that plays multiple versions of himself all the time?
It was a really exciting kind of exercise for me because I was really interested in what traits of a person are through your life experience and your upbringing, and what are, your chemical hardwiring in your brain. And I kind of got this really clear-cut way of splitting those two and seeing where they overlap. And as filming went on, what I understood was how much they have in each other, how much is a hardwired thing, and was able to dial down the good and bad of each of them, which is kind of very human, this gray zone that we live in. So that was really fun to do. And it's funny you said you like him, because as the series goes on, you might not like him so much. Maybe you'll like the other character more. You're going to flick between them. And I think that's what makes them really human. It was a clear-cut way for me to explore the extremes of our own humanity.
It's really tough. My script went from being this thick to that thick because, we had to remember all the timelines. You have to pull on the right threads. We had to remember and make sure that, you're not making the wrong choice for your character, because who is the sum of what Nadia was in the past and who she is now? Like, who has that person become? What are her priorities? Like, those are things, the duality of her character was so complex to play, and but that's the nature of the show. The show is riveting and thrilling because of the fact that it's just rooted in all of these human complexities.
Yeah, and Richard, I love when Stanley's character said that the body has a memory, maybe like Nadia or Mason, they don't remember their past life, but they realize that memory is not only a question of the mind or the feelings, no, everything has a memory. So what do you think about that as an actor, and if that makes sense to you, considering that this series and the action sequences that are amazing are so physical?
Yeah, I think there is a muscle memory there, and we discussed a lot of, the backstory of Mason, things you might not have seen on camera as he becomes Kyle. And for example, this desire to be on top of his fitness, this relationship with the news when he sees something's wrong in the world, this is all kind of built into you and bursting out. That's kind of what makes it exciting. And for us, we're trying to do this brilliant action show, but have it really filled with heart and with drama. You've seen the first episode. It's so fast-paced that we use every opportunity we can. So in the midst of these fight sequences, which is are very physical, we try to connect the characters dramatically and emotionally and get to know them through how they fight, rather than just having an action sequence, which is brilliant, and we love that in movies. But we thought, how do we add more to this, because an audience are ready to receive more, I think.
Yeah, no, totally. So that's all. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for this show. I think it's great.